Hello everybody and welcome to my YouTube channel, Art Classes My Way. We are going to be doing the eye of a fox. Now this is going to be taken from an excerpt of painting the entirety of this painting, which is going to be a two-part video, but taking this part out for beginners how to paint a fox's eye. I feel that that's going to be pretty helpful for a lot of people, and to break it down into something that's a little bit smaller, a little bit more bite-sized, and maybe a little less overwhelming for some people out there just getting started. We are just going to be focusing on the eyeball itself, really. And I would like to mention, if you want to help support my channel, if you like this video, please go and check out my Etsy account or my Patreon. I'd rather you do the Etsy account. I feel like that you are getting something for your money there. It feels a little bit more fair in some ways. So please do enjoy this video. Now we are going to be working on the eye, and I'm going to do a little bit of a close-up here, do my best for you guys. I'm going to be using a very tiny little paintbrush. He is 10 out of 0. It's one of the Royal grips that I have. It's one of my more favored paint brushes. I use them for watercolors and acrylics. Now, don't worry about the mouth. That's just laying down some of my colors right now and getting my general idea done. We still got all kinds of things to do with that part, and that'll be its own little separate, close-up thing that I'm trying to do at the moment for all the silliness. So, especially from this angle with this eye, it's going to be very crucial to get it right. Now, we're not actually going to see any of this white for this fox's eye. You very rarely ever do. They have a black ring around their iris that predominantly, unless the fox's eye is like wide with shock or something, you really won't see any of the white. So I'm going to go ahead and get the exterior, the eyelids, and so on, the corner of this eye done before I actually get to the eye itself, because this needs to curve more around here to make it feel right. And then go ahead and just darken some of this up. But as to why I painted this area white, was doing some experimenting, didn't like my experiment, so I painted it white for one, and for two, I had to fill in some of the texture of the canvas, because I knew this part could be pretty difficult to do. Let me just move you guys over. But this part would be difficult to do with a tiny paintbrush with all that texture, so, just kind of filling it in with paint just a little bit. Now I want to make sure I get the curvature of this eye right, because without that it's going to, you can see it's already looking a whole lot better overall, but without the curvature being right, it's going to look pretty funky. If you've ever seen any Chinese, no, it might be Japanese, I apologize if I get it wrong. There's an art style, a Japanese art style, it's one of the old, really old, that the eyes always look terrifying, like everybody's possessed. Except for the people, because they don't do the eyes the same, but whenever they do animals or demons, it's pretty much like the same eye structure, the same eye style, and it's terrifying. Right, now, we have the crease of the eye down in here, and you want to be able to see that, so I'm going to put a little bit of a black dot there. Because none of this is just like going, it doesn't recess back this way. It's not extremely flat. Honestly, I think I'll end up getting rid of some of this black on top, because you really wouldn't see this part. Looking at my photos, my reference photos, to make sure I get this correct. But at least it'll help me outline my eye for now. And I'm going to go get just a little, put my hand right in my paint, why don't I? Get just a little touch of white and mix myself a bit of gray. Yeah, and to kind of get the fold here, the light hitting in here. That might be a little bit too white. It's a very small, very subtle little thing that I just did there, just putting a little bit of gray here and there to make it look like the eye skin folding, but I don't have it super detailed. I don't want it to be super detailed because that could be just a little too much. There. Because even like if we were even being this close to the fox, will we really be able to see that much detail? Or will we be more concerned about eyelashes when we get to that point? Or the getting the fur a little bit more detailed? Those are going to be things that we're going to be paying attention to more than this little eye duct. Now, a fox's eye is darn near the very same color as its fur. I have seen a few images with foxes. Their eyes are a little bit more on the red side. So I'm going to mix some of the raw sienna that I started with. A little bit more of a red tint going on. And remember, it takes a little bit of red to make a big difference. And a fox has cat-like eyes. So we'll just lay down our coat here. Now, we don't want to do the regular circle. I want the color to come all the way about here. And because of how the eye is shaped, the iris and everything, remember that's concave down in there. It's almost a flat surface compared to the part of the eye that really, you know, pops out the lens and everything. This is practically a flat surface behind it. And kind of think of it like if you held a penny sideways, where you could see just a little bit of the top of it, but not very much. That's kind of the shape that we're going to try to go for here. So that means even the iris is going to be foreshortened. Get some more paint. And this is going to be our base coat. Now I'm going to take a little bit of straight red. I'm going to kind of treat this like a highlight. Basically going to hit just this side over here. I've got too much paint, so clean my paintbrush off and kind of move it around a little bit. Making it a little smoother. And I don't want to put any white in this. And just underneath where I put the highlight, you want to put a little bit of dark mixed in, and you can just lightly mix it with that red, so that way it feels like it's kind of concave a little bit, just around the edge. And I'm using a very tiny paintbrush here, and you can see how it's making big changes even at that. Put some over here as well, just a little bit, or not. Maybe I'll run out. Now, if you feel that's too extreme, you can always come in with the base color that you painted, kind of water it down just a little bit, and lightly paint over the top of it, and then it'll kind of give it a little bit of a layer, where the original, it's going to still let this darkness come through. It still allows some of that darkness to come through, but we can just kind of make it a little less extreme like this. And I'm going to come in with my base color again and kind of make this area a little bit smaller, that highlight. Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and pick up some of my Pryor's Gray, which is what I've been using for black, and my darkening agent this whole time. And I'm going to kind of just touch up the eyelid here. Right on. Now it's time for the pupil. We'll make sure we do this a little at a time. Now, for a cat's eye, we'll just start at the bottom. Now, because of the foreshortening that's happening, we're going to want it to be a little bit wider down at the bottom than we do going near the top. We don't want it nice and even. and you want it to curve. And I'm having curving this direction because this is the side we're seeing him from. Now, if we were directly above his head, then I would try to make it perfectly straight, perfectly symmetrical. But we are not, so don't have to worry about it. I'm going to take a little bit of white and red and mix myself up a slightly lighter red. So yeah, pink, but I'm just going to kind of come in here and highlight my highlight a little more. Mix a little bit more white with my pink that I made. Even smaller bit. And then a little bit more white. A little bit lighter. Give that eye some dimension. Now I'm going to go ahead and pick up my Pryor's Gray again. The thing I've been using is black this whole time. And I'm going to come around the outside. Get some more raw here. Now we need yellow. Not just any kind of yellow, cadmium yellow. And we're going to mix some of that with our red and get a brilliant orange. Remember, just a small amount of red makes a big difference to yellow. And now we gotta let it dry. Now, while I had this guy set up to dry, I noticed something that just didn't feel quite right still about it. So I figured it out. So I just got some more of my Pryor's Gray, and it's right here. Now, if I smooth this little area out, it's going to feel a lot more natural. So let's just do that. This is gonna be hard with my camera where it is. Oh, well, you guys can forgive me for like 5 seconds. Too much paint. Get a little less. There. Now that ought to look loads better. Now, we do still have a little bit of white here, and I'm going to leave it because it almost acts like a shine for this eyelid, and I'm going to make this eyelid just a little bit more even. And this area has gotten lighter and a little bit fuzzier, and it's a lot less clear than it was, and that's just fine because now it looks natural. And there's detail I don't have to put in there because it's kind of implied by the fact that it's just the slightest bit blurry and not so defined. And I'll just cover up a couple of areas. I'll come back in later to blend it a little more. There we go. So. There we have it. Looking pretty good, don't you think? Now, for one of the most crucial parts that you're ever going to run into when doing eyes is always the white shine. It is so, so important to get right. Now, one could argue because the eyelid or the top of the eyebrows right here that maybe we shouldn't have the white shine up here. Maybe the white shine should be coming from down here. Because normally in photos and a lot of pieces that you end up seeing, the white is usually at the top of the eyeball when the animal is upright. Now we've seen this fox that I painted, he's more pointing straight up. So really like the whole sky would be more or less, there would be a lot of white shine. But regardless of how you choose to do it, what you're going to want to do is make sure that wherever your edges are for your white shine, that they curve with the shape of the eyeball. That is what really keeps it from looking like just flat and gives it a sense of dimension and shape. So that way it just doesn't look like it's laying on top of and quite so cartoony. You can always get away with a dot. Dots are always fine. That helps out a lot. Now I'm going to drag my dot and give it a little bit of a tail going over this way, so that way it has a little bit of a curve to it, following the curve of the actual eyeball itself. And get a little bit of water here to mix in with this. So that way it just flows a little bit more smoothly. And plus that can also help me get a layered effect. For instance, if I wanted some white to not be nearly as intense as what I just put down, then I can just a little bit of water in with it, get it a little bit more transparent, and it will disappear a little bit more. Now I think, and then you can always layer on until you're satisfied, of course. Get a little bit more paint here. Because even shines, they're not really hardcore. They can also, they're not just strict white, they can also be multiple shades and sometimes even have a little bit of color to them. Not a whole lot, don't get silly with it. It's always a darkened version of whatever color it is that you see. So I'm basically, there's like one hair on this brush. This is a pretty old brush, but there's one hair on it that's longer than all the others. And I'm basically pointillism? It's pointillism, but pointillising? Let me know in the comment section. Pointillism or pointillising. I'm basically just dotting in a little bit of color one after the other because I'm doing such small areas. It's all going to dry super fast, so it allows me to layer and layer and layer. I think that ought to do it. Now I'm going to go ahead, get some straight white with no water mixed in, and take my little single hair and little bitty dot right there. Again, to give the eyelid a little bit of shine. Put just a little bit here and there. Now that's something we probably really want water for. I'll probably get a little bit more of a transparent, but that's okay. There, isn't that beautiful? And now we can come back here, put a couple of like little dotty line areas. Ah, isn't that gorgeous? Now trust me, from where I had it yesterday with my experimentation, it looked awful. This looks so much better than what I had going on yesterday. Sometimes you just need to put a painting away for a little bit, look at it from a distance, and just kind of think first before you move on. And if you have to paint over it, then paint over it. I did. I painted this guy white.